Good afternoon.
Everybody.
The meeting will now come to order. Hello, I am Tyra Battaglia, President of the Board of Education. I would like to welcome you to the April 9th, 2025 board meeting. In keeping with the board's commitment to open communication with the community, this meeting is being streamed live on CCPS website at www.carrollk12.org and broadcast live on Channel 21. We are also recording this meeting so that it may be accessed on demand on our website and broadcast throughout the month on Channel 21. Public participation will be held at approximately 5:15 p.m. following the report section on the board meeting agenda. Speakers will be directed into the boardroom from the building lobby and are allotted 3 minutes to address the board. As a reminder, please silence all cell phones and other devices. Board members, please turn off your microphones when you are not speaking, and reminder to use your cards. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Dr. Dorsey, second by Mr. Whistler. All those in favor?
Aye.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Moved by Dr. Malvo. A second by Ms. Zimmer. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And do we have student government report?
Hi everyone, thank you so much for your time. My name is Anya Slawinski. I'm a senior at Century High School, and I am the Carroll County Student Government President for this year. So the results from our student representative on the board election are in, and for the 2026 to 2027 school year, Gabriella Tedeschi from Century High School will be the student representative on the board. So big congratulations to her. And then today we had our final General Assembly for the school year at South Carroll High School. We elected our leadership, our board for this next year. So our president will be Mason Dean from Winters Mill High School. Our vice president will be Peony Kang from Liberty High School. Our secretary will be Arav Agarwal from Liberty High School. And our second vice president will be Audrey Chrysler. And then these students will help lead CCSGA in the 2025 to 26 school year. And then on May 30th, CCSGA will have its final executive board meeting where that president will be sworn in. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations to our student government. Next on our agenda is our board member activities and correspondence. Board members, we'll start with Dr. Malvo and we'll move down.
Thank you very much. Want to start off by just saying it's National Student Leadership Week. April 21st through April 25th is National Student Leadership Week. This annual recognition highlights the important role that student leaders play in our schools and in the community. We are fortunate to have a very strong and active student government association that gives students an opportunity to voice their opinions and develop their leadership skills. The board would like to thank Chloe Kang, our student representative, right, and Enya Slawinski, president of CCSGA, for their outstanding leadership and the excellent job that they do representing our students. Thank you. Also want to inform you that School Lunch Hero Day will be observed on Friday, May the 2nd. This day is an opportunity for parents, students, and school staff to thank our hardworking school food service workers. We appreciate these dedicated employees who do whatever it takes to provide our students with healthy meals each and every school day and for making students feel welcome in our school cafeterias. So in terms of my monthly report, I'll start off here. On March the 15th, I attended the educational event Read Across Maryland, made possible by CCA, CASE, and so many volunteers, and hosted by the Career and Tech Center. At the large gathering, each child chose a free book to keep. Guests read to children. I had the pleasure of also doing so as a reader. And high school dramatists performed, as well as there were just plenty of enriching games and activities. A wonderful event. Evening of March 19th, I attended the Outstanding Teacher Awards reception and ceremony at Winters Mill High School. It was a real pleasure to see our teachers recognized in the areas of Outstanding Teacher nominees, Outstanding Teacher finalists, and Chamber Scholarship recipients. Our teachers are hardworking and produce excellent students. Thank you all for what you do. On March the 20th, I visited Manchester Elementary School, and I was blown away by the Whittle equipment set up from the PE teachers, Chris Wonder and Tate Myers. The great climbing obstacle course definitely met the intended objectives for students to understand how not only to strengthen themselves physically, but also how to strengthen emotionally, as the obstacle course made them better problem solvers and critical thinkers. Also want to thank the third grade teacher, Chelsea Evans, for letting me sit in on your class lesson as you masterfully instructed students on early geometry concepts. Students aptly identified points, angles, planes, and much more as they differentiated shapes. And in addition, I want to thank Jim Keegan for letting me sit in on your ELA class as students identified and analyzed Greek prefixes and bases of words, such as centi with P to make centipede. And most of all, I appreciate the time that Principal Craig Hastings gave to me to show me around and show firsthand why they're doing such a great job at Manchester Elementary School. March 27th, I had the pleasure of taking part in mock interviews for students at Francis Scott Key High School at Union Bridge. And students, I hope that I helped to better prepare you for interviews with future employers in your workforce. I was very impressed by your overall professionalism and preparedness during our interviews. And also, I really appreciate those thank you cards you gave to me afterward. I read each one of those, and I'm going to keep those. Thank you. March 27th, I attended Carroll County Public Schools Middle School Battle of the Books, which took place at Westminster High. It was a fierce competition between teams. Teams' names included the Royal Readers, Born to Slay, Ridiculously Rad Readers, Pookie Bears 1.0, and the Grim Readers, to name a few. The stands were filled with pumped parents and community members holding banners, cheering their favorite teams. I felt like I was at a Ravens game. It was amazing. Great job, teams. You showed you were well-read and ready for this serious contest. April 2nd, I attended the Superintendent's Community Blueprint Town Hall meeting, and Dr. McCabe shared updates on FY26 operating budget, Blueprint fiscal compliance. Also, we had very important depth-filled questions that were asked by Carroll County community members. So thank you, Dr. McCabe, staff members, and Carroll County community members for coming together to share your thoughts. And last, finally, April 5th, as a parent volunteer for Boy Scouts, I helped in Troop 380's annual Scout auction that took place at Snyder's Auction House in Hampstead. It was the Scouts' 38th year doing an auction. The fundraiser helps to finance the coming year's activities, including biking, backpacking, canoeing, hiking, and camping. And in turn, our Scouts give back, volunteering countless hours to the Northeast Social Action Program, or NESAP, the town of Hampstead, Wreaths Across America, and much more. Scouts, you worked very hard for months to prepare for this fundraiser, and it was a huge success. Congratulations. Thank you for the generosity of local businesses, friends, and community members that provided auction items and gifts, and of course, those who attended the auction. Also, a special thanks to the Snyder Auction House owners, Lou and Wendy. And last, I want to recognize the big three, Bob Fry, Michelle Hood, and James Kirby, who kept everybody organized and focused on delivering this great event. Thank you.
Dr. Dorsey.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I'll share highlights of a couple of special weeks. This week is National Assistant Principals Week. Our assistant principals work hard, making sure that our schools run safely and effectively. Our students excel academically and socially. Our teachers grow professionally, and our families and community members become involved and stay engaged in the education of our students. Thanks to all of our assistant principals for their outstanding work and leadership. And a second designation, Administrative Professionals Week. April 20th through 26th is Administrative Professionals Week, and Wednesday, April 23rd is Administrative Professionals Day. Thanks to our clericals, secretaries, and administrative assistants, both in our schools and here at Central Office. These dedicated and caring employees are essential to the daily operation of our schools and offices. They assist our students, staff, and the public in countless ways and play a vital role in their schools and our school system. And next, for my activities for the month, I'll begin by sharing regrets for being unable to attend the Outstanding Teacher Awards reception this year. This is always a special event as we recognize outstanding teachers and highlight the profession of teaching. My congratulations to all 806 teachers who were recognized and to the 8 outstanding finalists. On March 14th, I attended the Curriculum Council meeting. We had a presentation on the elementary and middle school writing process. Thanks to Brittany Baker, ELA Specialist at Tawnytown Elementary, and Anne Marie Bird, Supervisor of ELA, who shared information about the science of writing and how student writing progresses through the elementary grades. Also thanks to Ashley Baker, mentor teacher, and Ryan Weinhold, Supervisor of Secondary English, for continuing the conversation and sharing how writing progresses through middle school. At our meeting, after having the presentation, we were introduced to the books and instructional materials that are being proposed for adoption. So, as always, I thank Steve Wernick for facilitating the meeting for us. On March 15th, I also had the pleasure of participating in Read Across Maryland, held at the Tech Center. It was a pleasure to join the list of guest readers and to read a story to those in attendance. It was a wonderful community event. It was great to see all of the activities that were also in place to promote reading and to get a preview of a couple of the high school's spring productions. Many thanks to Celeste Jordan for the invitation and to the sponsors, CCEA, CASE, and CCPS. A special thanks also to Penguin Random House for donating the books to our students. March 24th, we had a legislative committee meeting. There was continued discussion on recent tracked legislation. On March 27th, I had the pleasure of spending an evening around the world with the Mount Airy community. This was a wonderful and enriching experience as various cultures of the community were on display. Thanks to Pars Ridge, Mount Airy Elementary, and Mount Airy Middle Schools for joining together to showcase 3 schools, 1 community. On March 28th, I spent an entertaining evening at William Winchester Elementary School as students shared performances for their talent show. A special thanks to Cairo for inviting me to watch his performance. He, as well as all of the other students, did a wonderful job. On April 2nd, I also attended Dr. McCabe's Blueprint Town Hall meeting at the Tech Center. And again, we offer many thanks to the community and staff members for attending this informational meeting and continuing to engage in dialogue to help us support all of our schools and students. Next, it was very rewarding for me to attend 2 high school musicals this past weekend. On April 4th, I saw the production of Freaky Friday at Winters Mill School, and on April 5th, I saw the production of The Unsinkable Molly Brown at South Carroll High School. Both were excellent performances. The school's drama teachers, Miss Bollender and Miss Widener, all of the directors, musical directors, and everyone involved in putting on such quality work are to be commended, along with the fabulous student cast and crew members. And finally, on April 8th, I thank Dr. John Courtney for meeting with me and allowing me to visit Mount Airy Elementary School. Thank you.
Ms. Simmer? Ms. Ling, you can go first.
Thank you. So it's been a busy month, as you know, I've been trying to tie some ends now that it's the end of the school year for me. So on March 15th, I would like to apologize that I was unable to go to the Read Across Maryland event. I had a last-minute meeting come up for college, but as always, I'm sure it was an amazing event with lots of turnout, and I'm very glad that we were able to host it. But that afternoon, I was able to perform in the Carroll Concert Band concert, and it was an amazing experience to play alongside Carroll County musicians with amazing pieces, and we had a lot of community support for that as well. I was very grateful. Also in March, I attended Liberty High School's Culture Fest, and thank you to all of Liberty's cultural groups for an amazing time in the evening, getting to try different foods and activities. And on Monday, March 31st, I attended CCSGA's Executive Board meeting, where we finalized our preparations for the April General Assembly. I also attended Superintendent McCabe's Town Hall at the Korean Tech Center on April 2nd. And it was wonderful to hear about some really positive updates to the blueprint process. And I want to say thank you to Dr. McCabe, her staff, and all of our board members who really made it possible for such updates to even come around in the first place. Lastly, the very last and my last CCSGA General Assembly was held today, Wednesday, April 9th at South Carroll High School. I was able to present a workshop on how to write your college essay for our current junior delegates, and it was also an election for our executive board for next year, and I would like to congratulate alongside Enya for our new CCSGA board. I know you'll do amazing things, and they're all already so very accomplished. I'm very excited. Once again, the student representative on the Board of Education elections closed on the last Friday of March, and I would like to congratulate our 2026-2027 student rep and a current freshman at Century High School, Gabriella Tedeschi, who was also our Division II MASC, like the Maryland Association of Student Councils, Division II liaison this year. Jasmine and I are very excited for Ella's term and for her to join, our very small team. And I have also finished presentations for the CCSJ Senior Webinar Series College Applications, and those emails will be sent out tomorrow evening to high school advisors through Mr. Melhorn. And we're very excited to be also hosting an in-person session on May 22nd at Westminster High School from 6 to 8 p.m. for any additional questions, and we hope to see everyone there. So lastly, I would like to wish all of our drama productions fantastic shows and success, our seniors to have a relaxing time as they finalize choosing their college decisions and wrapping up the academic year, as well as hoping that everyone had a great quarter 3 and is enjoying their last few weeks or days now before spring break. Thank you.
Okay, April is National School Library Month. Our media specialists teach students how to locate and use information through both traditional resources and new technologies and instill the love of reading for a lifetime. Thanks to these dedicated employees for making our school media centers a welcoming place for students to learn and have fun. And Public School Volunteer Week will be celebrated during the week of April 21st through April 25th. From tutoring and mentoring to chaperoning field trips and assisting in the classroom, volunteers play a crucial role in supporting the success of students and teachers. We very much appreciate the efforts of these dedicated individuals who do so much to support our schools, our students, and our staff. Over the course of the last month, I have had the opportunity to attend CCPS's Curriculum Council. CCEA and Cases Read Across Maryland event, where I had an opportunity and the pleasure to read Giraffes Can't Dance by Giles Andre. I was able to attend Disruptive, the workshop led by Billy Live, Executive Director of Find Your Purpose. I attended the South Carroll Business Association's monthly luncheon and attended the Chamber of Commerce's Outstanding Teachers Award reception and ceremony. Again, congratulations to all the educators who were nominated for CCPS Teacher of the Year. And I was able to attend Dr. McCabe's town hall. On March 25th, I attended the Carroll County Commissioners' fiscal year 26 agency budget hearing. And during this meeting, the commissioners made a preliminary budget motion to fund the Board of Education at $13 million, which is $5.8 million above the original planned amount. I want to express my sincerest gratitude to our county commissioners for their continued support of our school system. Since graduating from the Chamber of Commerce's Leadership Carroll program last year, I have had the honor and privilege to serve on the Education Day planning team for this year's class. On April 8th, I accompanied the class to visits to Carroll Community College, our Career and Technology Center, as well as Outdoor School. It was a fantastic opportunity to showcase the outstanding educational programs that Carroll County Public Schools offers our students, especially to showcase them to local business owners and professionals. And then finally, every month, I love to highlight something happening in our amazing schools. This month, I would like to spotlight Miss Elena Peak's 7th grade English Language Arts class at Sykesville Middle School. On April 2nd, I had the opportunity to sit in on 2 of her ELA classes, an honors section with 37 students and another section with 24 students, 21 of whom are boys. So that was a very energetic class. The students were studying myths the students were studying myths to explore character traits, plot elements, and themes in preparation for writing their own original myth stories. After a lively discussion about popular modern myths, the class read 3 creation myths from around the world. I'm looking forward to returning to Miss Peak's classroom next week to see the students present their own original myths in creative formats such as poems, videos, comics, and more. So again, thank you very much, Miss Peak, for having me out last week. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I have a couple of items I want to read before I give you my board report. The first is National Teacher Appreciation Week will be observed from May 5th through 9th, and Tuesday, May 6th, is National Teacher Day. During this time, we will celebrate our extraordinary educators who work tirelessly throughout the year to help all students learn, grow, and fulfill their potential. We are very fortunate to have such dedicated teachers who go above and beyond every day to meet the needs of our students and provide them with high-quality instruction. Thanks to all of our teachers for everything you do for our students. And then also on Wednesday, May 7th, is National School Nurse Day. The professional nurses in our schools are dedicated to the safety, health, and academic success of our students. They play a significant role not only in healthcare at their schools, but also helping students meet the challenges they face each day, supporting education and advancing student health. Thank you to our school nurses for being instrumental in our efforts to keep students, staff, and the community healthy and safe. I'd have a very big report here. I'll try to be as quickly as possible. Some of it is duplicating what we've already heard. On March 15th, I visited the Career and Tech Center. It was great to see so many families and educators and public library volunteers during the Read Across Maryland event. Thanks so much to our sheriff deputies for their static displays of law enforcement items in the parking lot, and a very big shout out to our drama students at 2 of our high schools that entertained the crowd. On March 19th, I joined my colleagues to help recognize the 806 educators at the 36th Annual Outstanding Teacher Awards program at Winters Mill High School. I appreciate every individual that nominated our educators, and a very special thanks to the Carroll County Chamber of Commerce and all of their corporate sponsors for taking time to honor our educators. On March 20th, I participated in the Special Education Citizen Advisory committee meeting at Carroll Community College. It was great to see many parents and educators there to help improve our system. They were working on their goals and recommendations for next year, which we will see at a board meeting here in the coming months. On March 23rd, I was fortunate to serve on a panel of judges for the 88th American Legion Oratorical Contest in Towson, Maryland. A high school senior from Easton captured the top spot. Catherine Murphy will represent our state at the national level event hosted in Michigan in mid-May. On March 24th, I attended a MABE Legislative Committee meeting with my colleague, Dr. Dorsey, where we discussed lobbying efforts and strategies on various bills before the state legislature. On March 26th, I accepted an invitation from the Carroll County Boys and Girls Club to help select Sykesville Middle's Junior Youth of the Year. It was terrific hearing from 5 finalists who gave very compelling stories about how the Boys and Girls Club after-school programs help them grow academically and personally. Congratulations to Braden, an 8th grader, for winning the competition at that school. On March 27th, I visited Mount Airy Middle School. I met Dr. Dorsey there as well for their Evening Around the World event. I'm so very proud of all of the educators, parents, and students for affording the community insight into the incredible diversity and culture we have here in Carroll. I hope we have many, many more events like these throughout our county in 2026 and beyond. We saw one presentation where they were South Korea dances on the floors and music, and it brought back my memories when I was in Seoul, South Korea in 1999, many years ago. On March 29th, the District 22W Lions Club met in Kemar, near Tawnytown, and recognized Century High School junior Suniti Das for her essay about Clara Barton and volunteerism. Suniti's essay was the best among those submitted by high school students in 5 Maryland counties. So well done to her and the Lions Club organization for encouraging our students to volunteer and serve in our communities. On March 30th, I watched our career and tech students shine at the Carroll County Ag Center. Hopefully not to steal too much of your thunder, Dr. McCabe, but they captured 34 individual and team medals during the Skills USA Leadership Competition. And I'm so proud that Carroll can boast having the most students selected out of all Maryland counties to compete at the National Conference in Atlanta this summer. So well done to Principal Tom Riddle and all of the students and staff there at the Career and Tech Center. On April 2nd, I attended our superintendent's town hall at the Career and Tech Center. I appreciate the entire community's effort to reach out to all elected officials and communicate with them the impact that Blueprint has on our schools, our educators, and students. Dr. McCabe, her staff, and so many elected officials in this county have been urging state officials for nearly 3 years to adopt a waiver process, and we finally succeeded. I look forward to the state approving our waiver so we can continue serving our students in the best way possible. There will be large rewrites of Blueprint over the coming years. These waivers will give all stakeholders a chance to continue best practices and give legislators an opportunity to modify Blueprint in a way that makes it successful and realistic from a cost perspective. I think many realize that Blueprint's current form is, although ambitious, too expensive. And then finally, on April 5th, I attended the Christian Farmers Outreach Luncheon at the Pleasant Valley Fire Hall. It was great meeting so many members in our community that do wonderful things for our schools and our educators. Thank you.
All right. We have all definitely been very busy, I'd say. So for myself, March 13th, I attended the LAC meeting. Updates were given regarding career and college-ready implementation regarding Blueprint, updates from the competitions, different competitors like FBLA, FFA, and our Skills USA. That evening, I also attended the Career and Tech Pasta fundraiser, which, by the way, was absolutely delicious. And if they do it again, I highly recommend the fettuccine because it was, and the Alfredo sauce was just to die for. March 15th, I attended the Read Across Maryland event that was held at the Career and Tech Center. Thank you to CCEA and CASE for all that you guys had did putting that together. It is a fantastic event. And I did witness Liberty High School perform just a little snippet of Cinderella, and they were phenomenal. March 19th, I attended the Outstanding Teacher of the Year Awards. Again, congratulations to all those that were acknowledged and to the final 8. March 20th, I attended a virtual MABE training on board trust. March 27th, I attended the commissioners' meeting where Dr. McCabe and staff gave the commissioners the board budget request for CCPS budget hearing. Thank you to our county commissioners for including the $13 million additional budget request for the plan. April 2nd, I attended the superintendent's town hall. Again, thank you to everyone that attended. Some upcoming events. On April 11th, I'll be attending the Tournament of Champions. And parents, check those book bags that Friday afternoon because report cards are coming home. So we are officially in fourth quarter. I do hope everyone enjoys spring break that we'll have April 17th through April 22nd. It is much needed for quite a few, I know that. April 24th, I'll be attending the Board of Ed will have a joint meeting here with the county commissioners. April 29th, I'll be attending the Pathway and Possibilities at the Career and Tech Center. On April 30th will be the Spring Challenge. I'll be attending that morning. Manchester Valley's Theater Banquet, and that evening we'll have the Employee Recognition Ceremony. On May 5th, I'll be at the CAC meeting, and May 6th is the School Health Council in the evening, as well as the county budget hearing. And then we have LAC on May 8th, and then Mother's Day on May 11th. Definitely check with your local high school regarding their spring plays. And for all those students that are participating, and also their spring concerts, break a leg. Proms are starting. I really enjoyed this past weekend seeing some of the prom pictures. Students, make sure to be safe and make those memories, and parents, take lots of pictures and try not to cry. I hope everyone enjoys their spring break. The end of the school year is right around the corner. It's almost there. And don't forget to sign up for 4-H. Sign-ups end on May 1st, so contact the Extension office regarding that. Dr. McCabe.
Good evening. I'd like to begin this evening by congratulating the 806 teachers who were recognized in the 36th Annual Outstanding Teacher Awards Program. And I wanted to give a special congratulations to the 8 teachers who are our finalists for this year. The first is Leslie Bollinger, pre-K through 5 mentor teacher at Cranberry Station Elementary School. Jerome Georgiana, physical education teacher, Crossroads Middle School. Amy Glasscock, 5th grade teacher, Winfield Elementary School. Jennifer Goffina, mathematics resource teacher, Shiloh Middle School. Christy Grooms, 6th grade science teacher, North Carroll Middle School. Todd Hartshorn, social studies teacher, Manchester Valley High School. Margaret Mayberry, social studies teacher, Winters Mill High School. And Jamie Robinson, ELA and math teacher, Runnymede Elementary School. The Carroll County Teacher of the Year will be chosen from among these 8 outstanding teachers and will be announced at our employee recognition ceremony on Wednesday, April 30th. On behalf of the school system, I would like to thank the Chamber of Commerce and all of the businesses and organizations that sponsored and supported the Outstanding Teacher Awards program. I also would like to congratulate Lauren Stevens, a biology teacher at Manchester Valley High School, who is one of Maryland's 6 finalists for the Presidential Awards for Excellence in Mathematics and Science Teaching for grades 7 through 12. These awards are the highest honors bestowed by the United States government specifically for K through 12 science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and/or computer science teaching. State finalists represent the significant expertise and dedication of Maryland's STEM educators and serve as inspirational role models for both teachers and students. And as Mr. Whistler was reporting out, congratulations to the students from the Carroll County Career and Technology Center who earned 34 individual and team medals, 15 gold, 12 silver, and 7 bronze at the Maryland Skills USA Leadership Conference, more than any other school in the state. 37 students qualified to advance to the National Skills USA Leadership Conference to be held in Atlanta this summer. We look forward to recognizing the medal winners at our May Board of Education meeting. I would also like to congratulate the 36 students from Carroll County Public Schools who have received the prestigious honor of being named Carson Scholars. These scholars are awarded $1,000 college scholarships, and I would like to congratulate the 128 students who renewed their status as Carson Scholars. These scholars were previously awarded and have continued to uphold the rigorous standards of being named Carson Scholars. The board will be recognizing the new Carson Scholars at the June board meeting. Congratulations as well to Angie de Guzman, a 4th grade teacher at Ebb Valley Elementary School, who has received the 2025 Elementary Social Studies Teacher of the Year Award presented by the Maryland Council for Social Studies. Angie is passionate about social studies and recognizes that it not only builds critical thinking skills, but also strengthens reading and writing abilities. She engages students with primary sources and firsthand accounts from early settlers to the Revolutionary War, helping them develop historical perspectives and a deeper understanding of the past. Angie is also committed to curriculum development and instructional leadership, and has contributed to school-wide initiatives, mentored new teachers, and facilitated professional learning for educators. Congratulations to Jordan Kinney, networking and cybersecurity technology instructor at the Career and Tech Center, who has received the Instructor Excellence Expert Level Award presented by the Cisco Network Academy. This award recognizes the contributions of the top 10% of instructors in Cisco Network Academy based on learner success and course feedback. The award celebrates the skills, experience, and expertise of instructors who deliver impactful educational experiences for learners. And just a winter sports rundown for us. We've got South Carroll High School, who won the state 1A wrestling team championships for the 4th consecutive year, as well as 4 individual championships, and their coach is Brian Hamper. South Carroll also won the 1A cheerleading championship for the 2nd consecutive year, and their coach is Jennifer Bostic. The Liberty High School girls indoor track team won the state 2A championship and had 2 champions in individual events. The coaches there are Alexis Daniel and Doug Fleming. Students from Century High School won 2 individual championships in girls indoor track, and Liberty High School won 4. The Superintendent's Cup standings for the winter season are: in 1st place, Century High School; 2nd place, Manchester Valley High School; and 3rd place, South Carroll High School. Congratulations to all of our coaches and athletes for a very successful winter season. And lastly this evening, I would like to give an update on our request for a snow day waiver. On March 14th, 2025, we requested a waiver from the state for 1 student day for the current school year. We had 3 inclement weather days built into this year's calendar, and we closed for 4 snow days this year. This meant that the last student day would have been Monday, June 16th, 2025. We requested a 1-day student waiver so that the final student day would fall on Friday, June 13th, 2025. When schools would have to go a day more and end on a Monday, this is a qualifying reason in state regulations to make a waiver request, which is what we did. I am pleased to share that the State Board of Education approved our waiver request on March 25th, and State Superintendent Wright confirmed their decision to me on March 26th. I am able to now officially share that the final student day of this school year will be Friday, June 13th, 2025, and that day there will be a 2-hour and 45-minute early dismissal. Okay.
I think we could all hear students and staff echoing throughout the county like a hallelujah. All right. We are going to move on to, there's no presentations, so we do have reports. Dr. McCabe.
We've had so much focus on blueprint fiscal compliance and recently the waiver process at our town halls, our business meetings, and our meetings with commissioners that we thought we'd devote this agenda time to your discussion on the topic. The presentation we have tonight is the same one from the final community town hall, so we are not going to present the slides again, but just use it as a reference for discussion. One update for you and the public is that we have been informed that the AIB has scheduled our oral argument on our waiver request for 1:00 p.m. on April 17th. We are hopeful that the AIB will then render a decision on our waiver soon thereafter. There are way too many major system impacts for this to linger too long into the spring. The main thing that citizens can do now is review our waiver submission, which is online, and email the AIB members asking them to approve our waiver request. We will send a community email out tomorrow encouraging citizens to do just that. So with that, we will begin our report. Mr. O'Neill.
I guess I need the clicker in case. I think Dr. McCabe probably said it all. Just to echo that, the waiver request, as we submitted it on your behalf, is on the website under Board of Ed, and then Blueprint, and then fiscal compliance, and it's the very top thing in sort of larger font and bold lettering. So we'd encourage citizens to take the time to click on that and look at it, and if you support it, it would be critical between now and April 17 to email the members of the AIB, and it doesn't need to be a long email, I don't think. It just needs to be a statement asking that the members of the AIB support the Carroll County waiver request.
Dr. Malvo?
Yep. I have a good deal to say, actually. We now find ourselves to be in a favorable position in response to blueprint regulations. This is the exact situation that I'd hoped for and has resulted from the work of many. Concerned students, parents, CCPS employees, and Carroll County as a whole came together as a collective community, and we used our voice to negotiate flexibility with blueprint mandates with those in Annapolis and to ameliorate a $44 million deficit that would have cut our necessary CCPS employees, reading and math specialists, media specialists, special education assistants, and bring in overcrowded classrooms. Our superintendent and staff have put forth a strong waiver, and I believe it will bring positive results that will offset these issues. Thank you to the Maryland Accountability and Implementation Board for Blueprint, or AIB, for providing the ability to give waivers. And also I appreciate our union, CCA, and our commissioners for giving the support for the waiver. We need to put the welfare of our CCPS families, employees, and Carroll County community first. This was my exact intent a couple months ago at our February 12th opening session meeting with the FY 2026 budget on the agenda. There was a motion made and a majority vote to request $57 million from our commissioners. I respect the vote of the majority, but I want to give a dissenting opinion on why I voted no on this and relate why CCPS children, families, and the community were put first with my no vote. Why bring this up now? Because I was waiting for us to be in this hopeful time and did not want to undercut talks or negotiation in Annapolis. We now have a solid waiver process in place. And why bring this up now? Because the public, I feel, deserves to know a few facts, and taking this time is important. Taking that money would have great consequences. It's important for the public to know that whatever the commissioners agree to give this year, it must be matched every year hereafter at a bare minimum due to a regulation called maintenance of effort. And this does not account for any future step increases, COLAs, or other staffing enhancements. The $57 million that was asked of commissioners had been called a one-time monies. Not the case. Again, if the commissioners gave $57 million toward education, this is the new amount that they must match at the least with each new year. Whether the money comes from a surplus fund or not, you, the taxpayer, would have been on the hook for paying this every year hereafter. For a so-called short-term solution, we would have to deal with a terrible long-term commitment. Leadership throughout the county has confirmed that property taxes would need to rise to at least 22%, such as our county management and director, Ted Zaleski, has said, various meetings where Delegate Josh Stanko has said, Senator Justin Reedy at meetings, and that's just a few. I did not want to vote for a measure that would lead to a massive and historic tax increase. Such a tax increase would have economically buried many CCPS families and educators. I appreciate that many county citizens would be willing to pay that extra to keep the school system going, but many people cannot afford to do this. We have many ESPs and full-time staff whose modest salaries are not helped by Blueprint. What would a 22% tax increase do to them? I have good friends with children who've had to move out of Eldersburg to Georgia when the rent shot up because their landlord's property taxes went up. How many more CCPS families and employees in Carroll County would have had to move with that 22% tax increase? I hate to think of the CCPS students as young as elementary school, being dropped off by the bus and having to let themselves into an empty house at home each day because their parent has had to take on a second or third job to make ends meet. Imagine the trials and the hardships that they're having as they work through this. So yes, with the welfare of our school children, their families, and CCS employees in mind, I did vote no, and I continue to support our leaders negotiating for flexibility with Blueprint implementation, including doing a waiver. Keep in mind, when Blueprint was presented, we were informed that Carroll County would not have to pay any additional local funding. This is because our commissioners consistently spend over maintenance of effort, but clearly this was not the case with this $44 million deficit we had to make up. Commissioners have already agreed in good faith to provide as much as $13 million. I want to work with commissioners as this board has done in the past. I also value working with our legislators in Annapolis. We need long-term solutions on behalf of our children, parents, and teachers, and we need to continue to unite as a community. Let's talk through our differences and share responsibility for what we are facing. I want to thank Carroll County citizens for their huge outpouring of communication to Maryland General Assembly members in Annapolis, particularly those on the Maryland Accountability and Implementation Board, or AIB, for Blueprint. I have posted the contact list a few times of AIB members on my Greg Malvo for Carroll County Facebook site, and I know that you've shared this with them and why it's so crucial to keep our essential employees while maintaining manageable classroom sizes. You related why job cuts from Blueprint cannot work in our county. Thank you. Keep it coming and speak from your heart and your own experiences. Again, for success, all of us in Carroll County must continue to work together as a collective community, whether board members, commissioners, the delegation, and especially you, Carroll County citizens, as we work through Blueprint. Thank you for allowing me to speak on this.
Mr. Whistler.
Thank you. Dr. Malvo, I couldn't have said it any better myself. And I appreciate the rationale and the reasoning, because I too had so many misgivings that board meeting when we were on the dissenting side of that initial budget request. And I appreciate the intent and the of my other colleagues on the board that supported it, but many people at the time had no idea that, for example, the $53 million is just not even possible. Our county government by law cannot raise property taxes more than 5% a year. And a 22% increase in property taxes wasn't even possible. So that's one of the reasons why I too voted against the measure. But I will tell you, leadership prevailed, and we all worked together. We all worked alongside the community in particular to lobby people in Annapolis to finally, after 3 years, get a waiver process. We finally, our terrific superintendent and staff met with so many people down in Annapolis, so many legislators, and communicated just what Blueprint means for our county. And leadership prevailed. and we saved the taxpayers a tremendous amount of money. We still have a lot of work to do. One of the big changes in the legislation, we were successful in talking to legislators in Annapolis, and they added $2.3 million in funding. So, that $13 million that the commissioners have initially, preliminarily voiced to provide, 2.3 of that was given to us by the state. So maybe they don't have to give us much, but we'll see. But where we go from here is still a journey. We're still going to work with our counterparts across the street. We're still going to work on lobbying people in Annapolis to make sure that we communicate good, sound blueprint policies. But in the end, it's about teachers, it's about students, and it's about looking out for every single person that we represent in this county. So thank you very much, Dr. Mallow, for your words.
Ms. Zimmer?
Thank you. Just reinforcing what I said in my opening statement, just that how grateful I am to our county commissioners for their preliminary motion to fund us at the $13 million. Thanks to our county commissioners, we'll be able to fund the third year of ratified salary agreements with our support services and employee groups. Thanks to our county commissioners, we will be able to maintain our outdoor school program and continue one-to-one technology for students in grade 3 through 5th. Thanks to our county commissioners, we will not have to reduce the planned salary increase for our most needed bus drivers from 5% to 3%. So very luckily, we will not have to do that. And thanks to our county commissioners, we will not need to dip into the fund balance to cover rising utility costs. So I really just want to echo what I said before, how grateful that I am for their continued support, as well as the support of our lawmakers making this waiver available that was not available in February. So thanks again.
Dr. Dorsey?
I'm just pretty appalled at this point. I don't have prepared statements as my colleagues have, but I do want to make everyone aware that I don't think we would have gotten to this point of being able to submit a waiver request without having done what we have done to show that we're here to support our schools and our students. That's what we as Board of Education members do. We're here for the schools, we're here for the students, we're here for the community. So when we're presented with a plan that is not going to benefit all of our schools and all of our students, we need to speak up. We need to be vocal. We need to be present to share that we want more and we expect more for our students and for our schools. I know an earlier comment that I had made concerning the budget and how we needed to, yes, put forth an effort to secure more funds. Again, I had said at that point that, I'm certainly all for equity, but true equity is giving everybody what they need. And again, the plan that had been outlined for us was in no way giving our Tier 1 and our Tier 2 schools what they needed. It was too heavily weighed upon the backs of our Tier 3 and Tier 4 schools. Again, it was great to see all the things that would be in place at those Tier 3 and Tier 4 schools. But as we spoke that night, we certainly shared that there are needs that our Tier 1 and our Tier 2 schools have that we could not meet without asking for more. Again, we're here for all the kids. We need to keep that in mind. We're board members. We're here for our kids. We're here for our schools. We're here for our teachers and our school communities. So again, our job has always been to share the realistic needs of what our school system have. And again, once we share those needs, yes, we turn it over to the commissioners. It's up to them to either support our budget or not. So again, I would just like to just share that I don't think we would be at the point right now where we're hoping and praying that the AIB, when they review our waiver request on the 17th, I don't think we would even have that in place possibly, if we hadn't taken the steps that we took to put our system's needs out front for all to see. So again, I'm sorry, I'm sort of speaking off the cuff in one sense. I'm not as prepared as my colleagues, but I just wanted to make, several of those points to my fellow members and really to our whole school community. I think we all need to hear that, again, we're here for the kids. So we need to act on their behalf. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Dorsey. I'll just add to that real quick because I didn't have anything either. I mean, I know I've said it before and I'll say it again. This board does not have tax authority. That is not up to us, how the county commissioners, what they decide and how they decide it. As Dr. Dorsey said, we are here as board members. We're supposed to be educating our children and putting them as a priority and putting them first. It took a state law for Blueprint to mandate a salary, a starting out salary for our teachers and our staff. We need to remain competitive. And within our test scores, it is plain to see that, we have an excellent school system and people move here for our school system. But that's what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be advocating for our schools and for our students. And I think that's what we need to continue to do. And, hopefully we can continue to maintain that and do that. Doing what we need to do, asking for the funding we need and the help that we need to make sure everything is taken care of and our students are not harmed in any way. All right. Okay. Anything else? All right. We'll move on to legislative report.
The General Assembly ended Monday at midnight, so there has been not a great deal of time for us to digest everything that's happened. At the May meeting, we will have a more comprehensive legislative summary that will detail all the major bills that passed and are signed and their impact on our school system. But for tonight, Mr. O'Neill has a summary of some of the bills that we've been discussing monthly. Mr. O'Neill?
Thank you, Dr. McCabe. And as Dr. McCabe said, not all of the bills by any means. There'll be many, many more on this list come May when we do a kind of a summary wrap-up of the session. But we did want to give kind of an initial glimpse of some things that happened at the end. It's only been a little over a full day to process and start to unpack. Brenda, if you could stay on where you were right there would be good. So as far as comments, we just want to focus a little bit on where the operating budget ends at the state, and this was referenced a bit ago during the Blueprint talk. What we have been referring to usually as the governor's bill or the governor's budget at the beginning of session wasn't so much the budget itself, but a companion bill, House Bill 504, Senate Bill 429, which was technically called the Excellence in Maryland Public Schools Act, and it's sort of the moving parts of the education budget. And so what we have been able to sort of unpack for you this evening is where that bill as finalized, the bill that was actually adopted and enacted, leaves us in terms of the state targeted per pupil next year and pending further changes in future General Assemblies for the rest of Blueprint. So this little chart, which you've seen before in work sessions in some way, is intended to show you in the far left column what the targeted foundation per pupil was in the original Blueprint for all 10 years. That's that foundation target per pupil column. And the column that follows that is just how much more money that is in 1 year over the previous year, how much more money was being added to the targeted foundation per pupil. Then in sort of the second box, the last three columns, this is the governor's bill. This is the Excellence in Maryland Public Education Act, and it's that first number of 163 that's so important for FY26. That's the amount of money that the state, and actually for all of those years, but for FY26, that amount of money is $163. That's the amount of money that the state is associating with the teacher collaborative time part of Blueprint, the 60-40, if you will. And so when the governor's budget came out with this companion bill, part of that process was to push back the phase-in of teacher time, but the state also removed the associated amounts from the per pupil at the same time they were pushing back the phase-in of teacher time. And that was a big discussion early in our budget sessions and led sort of to your budget request in part. Where the bill ended was a compromise between the version the House passed and the version the Senate passed. And in terms of the FY26 per pupil, the House version is what prevailed in this instance. And so the General Assembly has restored the $163 to the per pupil, so it's back to the $9,226, and have not attached that money to any specific initiative such as teacher time. So the foundation figure is restored, and again, that's not, we talked about this in the past, that's not 9,226 times the number of kids, that's the number upon which the state participates in its funding. So the state's share of that 9,226 times the number of kids is should equate to somewhere upwards of a little bit upward of $2 million in our operating budget in terms of state aid. Now, in the out years, the plan that's now enacted with House Bill 504 is that teacher time is pushed back for 3 years. So next year and then 2 after that. Next year, the foundation is restored harmless. There's no, you can use it in general. But for fiscal year 27 and fiscal year 28, the state is again proposing to back out the associated teacher time dollar amounts. And so those numbers in the out years, starting in 27, are less than anticipated in the original blueprint law as a base foundation. So that's something to watch. It's good news in 26, but it's something for us to continue to watch and look at future General Assemblies as we go forward and over the next years. There are more components than just the foundation and teacher time to the governor's bill. They're not on your sheet tonight because of time constraints. In the May legislative summary, we'll do a better job of summarizing all of the moving parts of the Excellence in Maryland Public Schools Act. And then I'll stop. Following that's the brief capital summary. I'll stop with that. The capital budget at the state turned out to be where we kind of thought it would be. About the same amount of money overall that's been there the past couple of years. It breaks out into some different programs, and some of them are highlighted there. The long and short of that for a Carroll County lens or viewpoint would be that this leaves us at a place where we do believe the state, now that the General Assembly's concluded, will participate at 100% in the projects that they were already participating in, and that your CIP request and your CIP budget from the county would fulfill it. Those projects that are in the plan would move forward. And in the interest of time, I'll pause there with the 2 budget points, knowing that in May we'll come back with a much longer and more detailed summary. And as far as the bill list, there'll be more bills because there'll be more time to synthesize everything that's passed. But we'll also have sort of that last column won't so much be status as it is tonight, but more about what's the impact for CCPS. What does this bill passing mean? In a summary, what does this bill passing mean for the school system?
Mr. O'Neill, real quick, so the money that was put back into the foundations, that's not 100% done because the governor has to sign off on it still, correct?
It's technically yes, but constitutionally they have to have a budget, and this is the mechanical end of the budget. So I would say this is as done as a bill can be done.
Okay.
If he doesn't sign it, then the budget's not fully composed.
Yeah, I'm worried because, we hear like, well, this might not happen or this may happen, and then it ends up being different. So
In this case, I'm pretty sure that the governor's folks were involved in the conference committee discussions, that this is a 3-way compromise. Legally, in the legislature, it's a 2-way compromise to pass, but I'm pretty confident the governor will sign this.
And the foundations part, so the community understands too, that's a big part of the blueprint.
Yes, that's the base of all funding.
Yeah, so that's all that wonderful part that we were struggling with. Okay. All right. Mr. Whistler.
Yeah, thank you. Again, kudos to you, the superintendent, the staff, everything that you guys did to convince folks to put more money back in foundation. I think maybe as a discussion point, Dr. Dorsey, I know we're meeting with MABE next week, and Dr. McCabe with PASAM. We really need to there is a lot of willingness down there by legislators to see if we can work the funding formula a bit so that we can have, if any rewrites occur next year, and they are starting to work now on rewrites, we've just got to keep on a full court press to just, they have to put more money in foundation, increase the foundation amounts, and maybe decrease the multiples in comp ed, English language learner, or multi-language learner, what they call it now, but just things that I'll try to work on in MABE and try to work on with legislators is just, we have to retool that foundation funding so that we have more discretionary funding here. I'm not sure if you've heard any willingness or similar things from other counterparts of yours throughout the state.
I think yes, I mean, that is some of the conversation. I think that's reflected by the House, what was originally the House's action here. I think it's a growing conversation in Annapolis, and sometimes in Annapolis, things take 1 or 2 or 3 sessions to kind of get there. I guess it's saying the same thing, Mr. Whistler, but the way I think about it, for what that's worth in any much, is I think the major disconnect, sometimes we'll say there might be a separation between the theory of Blueprint and putting it into practice for real, is that it's my belief that when they devised the formula, they assumed that the foundation as it existed at that moment was sufficient to run the school system, and therefore anything they added on top of the foundation was on top of where it needed to be already. It was already where it needed to be. This was on top of that. And that's why they associate, this is just one example, that's why they associate specific numbers and say, well, in the future foundation, $163 in that year will be carved out for teacher time, and $62 in that year will be carved out for career counseling, and $517 will be carved out for college and career ready. But it might not have been correct to have assumed that the foundation at that moment that they devised the formula was sufficient to run the school systems, or maybe not all school systems. Maybe it was in some counties. And then that's the struggle and the compliance in. And that's the, Mr. Shockney's chart about staffing and why are so many teachers moving. It's because we're creating a base school that's not realistic by trying to use the real foundation amount. A base school that doesn't have everything in it that we believe every school should have, even if there are no at-risk students in that school. That to me is the disconnect. And it's saying the same thing you said. We've got to look at the foundation, but I think we also have to vacate this belief that you can attach these theoretical amounts of money and say, this is for that and this is for that, without regard to the rest of the school system that already existed. If this is the thing I say to them, if you can do that, then take the $9,226 and itemize it, every penny of where you think it's spent. Tell me how much is spent on plant maintenance, how much is spent on operations, how much is spent on healthcare. And if you do that, I'll show you a school system that can operate. That to me is the major disconnect.
Yeah.
Quit tying up the foundation. It's bad enough that the foundation is not enough, but then you're tying it up on top of that.
Right. No, and I completely agree with you. But they're surprised to learn that, oh my gosh, your reading specialists and math specialists use foundation. Yes, that's what we use, and that's why you were forcing us to remove these people. And so, but we were very successful in communicating these things to folks in Annapolis. And again, I really appreciate your efforts. And another major thing, we need to change that comp ed 75% to 50%. Give the problem with Blueprint, it's forced top down, and they're not giving us flexibility at the local level. But we're going to continue working, and I appreciate everything that you've done. I know you've been on the phone with legislators a lot over the last 2 months, but folks just don't understand behind the scenes how much work went into this. And but bravo to all of you that made it happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Neill. Okay, next we have our school construction report. Dr. McCabe.
This is the monthly construction report. The bigger discussion items for construction tonight will be on the action agenda, but Mr. Marks is here this evening for any questions you may have about the construction report.
Any questions? Okay, thank you. Or did you have questions, Steve? Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Next, we will move on to public comment. Mr. Whistler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To have an orderly presentation of comments by the public, the following guidelines apply. Speakers with a connection to CCPS will be allowed to address the board for the allotted 3 minutes. Only those speakers that have registered online and have been notified by the Communications Department will be permitted to speak. Priority will be given to those citizens that are addressing the board about an item on the current agenda. Citizens not appearing in person for public comment can, of course, write to the board through email or U.S. mail. Public participation is not intended to be a question and answer session. However, if citizens have specific questions, the superintendent will assign a staff member to make contact during the board meeting to arrange a time to respond to questions. The superintendent and board reserve the right to correct misinformation presented as factual after the conclusion of the public participation period. Statements to the board should relate to a recent agenda item, an agenda item that is expected to appear in the future, or a matter of general policy over which the board has authority. Personnel matters, pending appeals, the actions or statements of individual staff, or items related to employee negotiations are not appropriate topics and may not be discussed. The board has scheduled time on the agenda for public participation at approximately 5:15. The board reserves the right to limit the number of speakers on a particular topic so that all topics can be addressed. Additionally, the board retains the discretion to allow additional speakers as it deems appropriate. The board is allowing no more than an hour for public participation. Comments are limited to 3 minutes or less. All comments should be directed to the board members at the dais. Citizens may only address the board with their individual comments. Citizens may not stand in for another person or group or read their comments. When the allotted time expires, the speaker is permitted to complete a sentence. Citizens may leave any handouts for board members on the table at the back of the boardroom. Please do not approach the dais. Additionally, the public may not display signs or posters during the board meeting. In lieu of signs, or if you are unable to complete your comments in the allotted time, individuals are encouraged to submit remarks to the board in writing. Those seated in the audience are asked to be respectful of the speaker and refrain from commenting to the speaker or to board members. We have 4 speakers registered for this evening. The first speaker, and again, if I mispronounce your name, please correct me. First speaker is Jenny Orenstein. Okay. Next speaker is Josh Wilhide.
Good evening. For the board members that did not have prepared statements, I got you. I prepared mine. So I'm here today to give you guys a brief history lesson. It seems like every 28 years, Carroll County is under a generational trauma in which we as the public have to stand up and fight. In 1969, there was the national teacher crisis in which Carroll County was involved in the strikes, in which we stood up and fought that and got the tiered salary system that was put into place. That was my grandfather fighting for my mother. My mother took me to Westminster High School in 1997 to fight the fiscal year tax increase for the property taxes in order for us to properly fund the schools back in 1997. That was 28 years from 1969 to 1997. And here I am fighting my fight for my daughter. So this is 3 generations in which the public has consistently in Carroll County had to stand up and fight every 28 years for proper funding of the schools. Now, I understand that this is not a county budget crisis, that this is actually a CCPS budget crisis, because if our schools were properly funded, we would not be dead last in per pupil spending in the state of Maryland. No matter how you want to spend it, no matter how much you want to cut from the state to the county and how the numbers add up, we are dead last. The PTA fundraises to get projectors in the school systems. Our school paid for projectors through the PTA. Our school uses the PTA to pay for software subscriptions. Our PTA at our school pays for the forks and the spoons in the cafeteria. If our schools were properly funded, we wouldn't have to pay for silverware. Now, I implore you to each release a one-page public statement telling me where you stand on the operational funding for the 13 million, where you stand for the 44 million for Blueprint, and where you stand on the charter schools. I implore all elected officials in Carroll County to release a one-page statement, because I am turning this into a national conversation. I have started a social media campaign, and I have over 211,000 views since I started on March 12th. I have 22,000 likes, and just in the time that this meeting has started, my TikTok has received over 150 likes. That is in 1 hour. I yield my time.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Sharon Wilhite.
Hi, I'm going to try and make this quick. I know last time I went over and I apologize. There's a lot of conversation, and I know one of the things on the agenda is the charter school coming up, and I look forward to the presentation about the details regarding the charter school. But I know there's a lot of success with charter schools in low-income areas and low-performing areas. Carroll County is not a low-income area. Carroll County is not a low-performing school system. As Mr. Whistler has said, we're 12th ranked in the state for the wealth income. We are also consistently in the top 3 performing school systems. So are charter schools good in some areas? Yes, absolutely. But being one of the top 3 consistent performing school systems, I don't see how that's a necessity. I understand there's a process and they apply and there are parents that are interested and you as the board have to review it, and I understand all of that. My question is, financially, of how would we fund this school system if we can't afford to fund our school system as is? And I'm very thankful that the waiver, we are able to apply for that, and I hope it goes through. Fingers crossed. I've reached out to the AIB. But my concern is, how would we fund a charter school if we can't fund 92 teachers? I know Blueprint, there's a lot of questions. Even if the waiver gets approved, it's only for 1 year. Obviously, we're hoping for changes at the state level to Blueprint, but looking at fiscal year 27, then what would happen? How would we fund a charter school when we can't even fund our own teachers? Running my home, my mortgage, and the food on my table is the most important things. What I have, my children that I have, are the most important things. I don't go out buying jewelry and giving, lots of donations if I can't afford it. Do I want to donate to other people? Yes. Do I want to go buy jewelry for myself? Yes. Do I want to get my hair done? Yes. But if I can't afford the food on my table, the clothes on my children's backs, then I don't fund other things that I can't afford. So I would actually like some follow through of how the funding process works with the charter school. I know there was, I kind of briefly looked through the PowerPoint that's going to be presented, and there was talk that funding is not a reason for denial. I would like to know why. Why is that? Why can you say no when if you don't have the money, how are you going to afford it? So I would like some follow-up on how the charter school would be funded. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our final speaker of the evening is Lisa Maizano.
Okay. Good afternoon, board members and Dr. McCabe. My name is Lisa Maizano, and I'm a member of the Carroll Education Coalition. I commend the school board for requesting the additional operating budget funding from our county commissioners, who responded by approving a preliminary budget motion. I provided public comments at the commissioners' open session on March 27th, explaining how inflationary pressures have eroded what CCPS can accomplish with their funding. I told the commissioners that the county needs to identify a plan to meet the needs of CCPS over the long term. Today, I'm here to continue voicing that message by respectfully asking the Board of Education and CCPS staff to work together with the commissioners and the community to develop a long-term plan for how the county will meet the needs of CCPS. Our schools have funding challenges unrelated to Blueprint, but Blueprint has amplified those challenges. Our coalition has assembled binders of testimony from the public on these challenges, and we have left one for each of you. In the near future, CCPS will have to meet the Blueprint requirements, even if the AIB grants us a short-term waiver. Although the Blueprint may undergo some modifications in the future, The law and its requirements are not going away, as evidenced by the General Assembly's firm commitment to it during this session. Assuming the AIB grants the waiver request, a delay gives us an opportunity to work together on how we implement Blueprint in a way that is acceptable to our communities. It is in the best interest of our county as a whole to figure out how to financially support CCPS so that drastic staffing changes can be avoided and Carroll County can keep its excellent reputation for public schools. Staff and parents experience significant stress with the annual uncertainty around funding. A long-term plan would provide transparency for our community and stability for our school system. Right now, you have the community's attention, and so you have an opportunity. Let's make good use of it to outline the future vision we have for our school system for when Blueprint is implemented. Our community wants to be involved in that plan. Our county as a whole needs to have open and honest conversations about what it will take to achieve that vision. Investing in CCPS is an investment in our children, our future, and our community. Again, the question is not whether Carroll County can afford it. The question is whether we can afford not to. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have employee groups.
Look at you. Good job.
I made sure I looked at it. I was like, okay,
right.
don't forget.
Good evening, Dr. McCabe and members of the Board of Education. My name is Cindy Porter, and I'm a special education paraprofessional and the president of CASE, representing clericals, assistants, and paraprofessionals in Carroll County Public Schools. As I begin my remarks this evening, I wanted to echo the sentiments expressed by our Board of Education members about the Read Across Maryland event on March 15th. This is a great example of what collaboration among stakeholders can do to show the students the importance of reading and our love of reading and to support them along their journeys. So thank you to all who were involved in that wonderful event. The unprecedented budget season that has been a significant part of the past several months has rightfully been a focus of our Board of Education and now our county commissioners, as our school system struggles to keep operationally afloat as well as comply with the legal requirements of the Blueprint for Maryland's future. Dr. McCabe has been at the forefront of identifying and trying to deal with the impact of this law on Carroll County for the past few years, although many in our community have just recently come to the realization of the unique situation our county finds itself in because of years in the past where we were forced to become lean. There is no doubt that our veteran school system employees remember those 7 years of no increases in any compensation. But the bright light in all of this, as mentioned by CCEA President Celeste Jordan at the last town hall meeting 1 week ago, has been the leadership shown by Carroll County across the state as representatives of both sides of the aisle have genuinely worked together to try and find a workable solution to this unbelievably challenging situation. Delegate Josh Stonko, who has been one of the leaders in this effort, spoke to this at the first public town hall meeting at Century High School. He said that many may be surprised about his comments because of his party affiliation, but he spoke to all of the entities working together, no matter the philosophical differences or territorial representation, to achieve a solution to this substantial challenge, because as he so succinctly put it, Carroll County is Carroll County, and we need to do what we need to do for the benefit of our children and students. What a great way to lead in this time of unrest in our state and country. The actions by everyone involved are an inspiration, and hopefully we can all keep this effort close in our thoughts as challenges continue to arise. Another bright light for the public employees in the recent legislative session is the passage of the Davis-Martinez Public Employee Safety and Health Act, begun as House Bill 176, now on the governor's desk to be signed into law. This act was named in honor of Davis-Martinez, a 33-year-old young man who served as a parole and probation agent with the Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services, who was assigned to the Montgomery County Field Office in Silver Spring. On May 31st, 2024, Agent Martinez tragically lost his life at the hands of the parolee he was conducting a home visit check on. This legislation, among other things, will create a new unit within the Division of Labor and Industry to oversee and enforce safety and health regulations with the main goal of ensuring safe and healthy working conditions for all public employees. Lastly, as educators, we find ourselves in a particularly challenging time within our school buildings. Like in a closely contested football game, we're in the fourth quarter. Spring is here, we're in testing season, and students are eagerly anticipating spring break. Unsurprisingly, we are seeing an uptick in behaviors, including disrespect to staff, other students, and our school buildings. I recently heard a quote from a member of our school system community saying, "We want parents to be the focus of everything we do in the school system." As an educator, I can confidently say that educators across our county would love parents to be the focus in this much-needed effort by reaching across the proverbial aisle to help other parents to stress to students the importance of being focused and respectful to staff, their peers, and most importantly, our schools during this beginning of the end of the year. Our legislators and local leaders are truly examples of the benefits of working together in their efforts to find solutions for our school system and students, and I feel we can all do the same. So I will end my remarks with another quote, this one by Lynette Evans. "If people stopped looking for things that offend them and started looking for things that inspired them, what a wonderful world this could be." I'm inspired by the possibilities of what can be accomplished if we work together. Thank you.
Good evening, Superintendent and member of the board. Before I begin my prepared remarks, I did want to make a note. I've heard from many educators who are so happy that some of the board members are talking about when they visit classrooms and what's going on, because that's what we're all about here. So sharing what you've learned in the classrooms when you visit, it's great, and we, the educators, truly appreciate that you're looking at what's going on and you're seeing what's being done in our Carroll County classrooms. Thank you. Last month, CCA, CASE, and CCPS held our annual Read Across Maryland event, as we've all said. Several hundred children came to the event, and 500 books were given out to promote reading and literacy. CCA and CASE spend a great deal of time throughout the year planning this event. I want to give a shout out to Sarah Carver and Catherine Burling, who do the majority of the planning. It's them that organize the sheriffs to come in, the library to come in. It's all they're doing. I would like to thank the members of both unions who did give their time either to plan or work the event. CCA and CASE have been organizing this reading event for about 25 years, and it continues to be one of the highlights of the year for us. I also want to give special thanks to Penguin Random House for donating the books. We really can't do it without them, and that's such a gem to have here in the community for us. As we begin the final marking period of this school year, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the dedication and resilience of our educators, support staff, students, and community. This time of year is always intense, more so this year with what has been happening in Carroll County. Our educators continue to show up every day with passion, despite the mounting pressures, academic, social, and administrative. They work tirelessly to meet students where they are, helping them to close learning gaps while finding creative ways to engage students of all levels. As president, I have the privilege of seeing the incredible effort put forth by our educators. But I also hear of the challenges, the stress of staffing issues, increasing responsibilities without corresponding resources, and a growing need for mental health support in our community. What I am sharing is not criticism, but a reflection of legitimate needs and a request to continue our partnership to work together towards solutions. I also want to acknowledge the strength of our school community during this difficult time. The community has written, called, and visited elected officials and the AIB in support of Carroll County schools. I hope that community members and educators can find the time to write one more email to the AIB in support of the waiver submitted by CCPS on April 1st. Thank you to the community who have shown educators that we are supported and valued. It reminds us that we're not doing this work alone and that together we can get through any challenge. I would also ask the community and educators to find time to attend at least one meeting related to the Board of Commissioners budget process. The commissioners need to hear from the community so they know what to prioritize in their budget. On April 22nd at 10 a.m. in the Board of Commissioners office, their preliminary budget will be presented. Then the Ted Zaleski Roadshow begins. There will be 5 TED Talks around the county, 1 in each commissioner's district. On May 6th, the public hearing will occur at the Carroll Arts Center. But please don't wait until May 6th. Let your commissioners know your thoughts on the county budget. That's the end of the process. We need to be at the town TED Talks. We need to be at the one in the beginning. And you need to be talking to your commissioners. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, we are now going to move on to action items. Do I have a motion to approve the approval of appointments?
So moved.
Moved by Dr. Dorsey, and second by Ms. Zimmer. Dr. McCabe.
I have 6 recommended appointments for you this evening. The first is Erica Airing, mentor teacher at Westminster Elementary to acting assistant principal, Westminster Elementary. Sarah Andrews, assistant principal, Westminster Elementary to acting principal, Westminster Elementary. Mindy Goretzis, physical education teacher, Westminster High School to acting assistant principal at Westminster High School. David Herman, acting principal at Francis Scott Key High to principal, Francis Scott Key High. Carrie Lyons, school psychologist in Baltimore County Public Schools to school psychologist for us in student services. Lauren Ricketts, acting assistant principal at Francis Scott Key to assistant principal at Francis Scott Key.
Any questions or comments? Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Next item is the approval of personnel actions.
So moved.
Dr. Dorsey,
I'll second.
and second by Mr. Whistler. Dr. McCabe.
For tonight, there are just 3 new hires on the monthly personnel actions.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It passes. Please have a motion for 6C, approval of the design development documents for Freedom Elementary Addition project. Moved by Dr. Malvo
I'll second that.
and a second by Dr. Dorsey.
Board members, the next 8 agenda items are for the approval of building additions that are in the design development phase of the project planning process. As a reminder, once a project is approved for funding, the project moves into the planning phase with the naming of a planning committee with members representing administration, teachers, parents, county government, and a liaison from the Board of Education. The planning phase consists of 4 major milestones, each approved by the Board of Education and the Interagency Commission on School Construction, otherwise known as the IAC, before proceeding to the next, with each containing progressively more detailed information. Those milestones include educational specifications, schematic design, design development, and construction documents, which is the final step before placing the project out to bid. Items 6C and 6D for the Freedom and Sykesville additions are capacity related and are being developed as a result of the direction of the board from the recommendations made by the Southern Area Redistricting Committee. Both projects are currently tracking on or under budget. For the Freedom project, there is a relatively new concern at Freedom regarding the area water pressure and the fire suppression system. Staff is working now with the design consultants, and we will have more information on the impact with the submission of the construction documents in the fall of 2025. We would need the board to approve each of these 2 projects individually.
Okay. Any comments or questions? Dr. Malvo.
Yeah, just for clarification, on page 9, where it goes into project schedule, it has design schedule and construction schedule. All this makes sense, but I'm wondering in terms of when we get to the category of occupancy. Just so the public knows, what do you mean by occupancy, or what does that entail?
That basically, when we're complete construction and we get an occupancy permit, that means staff and students can start using the space. So, the construction ending and occupancy are kind of, the target at the same time.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Passes. And may I please have a motion for the approval of design development documents for Sykesville Middle Addition
So
project?
moved.
Moved by Dr. Dorsey,
A second.
second by Mr. Whistler.
Okay. Items 6E through 6J are related to blueprint requirements for pre-K expansion. 3 of the schools, Elmer Wolf, Runnymede, and Robert Moton, have already...
Sykesville Middle.
I think we're still on
Oh.
6D.
I'm sorry. I thought we already did 6D. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
All right, comments or questions on 6D?
No, just glad to see it's below budget. I think when this is done, glad to see this is below budget, and I think when this is done, this will be probably our largest middle school in the county, correct?
just behind West Middle. West Middle is the largest.
Almost,
middle school,
yeah.
But it's close to it.
But, yeah, a lot of work. Appreciate it.
Dr. Malvo?
Oh, I was just going to piggyback on that in terms of, I was trying to figure out, this is 8% lower than expected. The remaining ones are more at 2.5 or higher. Something went very well here. What maybe is the factor in this particular item that was successful in that?
So each project takes on kind of a life of its own based on the existing conditions, the school itself. So with Sykesville Middle, we were at the schematic design. We were, which was back in the fall, we were the estimate was over budget by, I can't remember a percentage, but a little more than the pre-K additions were. So there was work during design to really kind of hone in and make sure we're being as efficient as possible. And we broke some things into add alternates as opposed to keeping them in the base bid. So we really worked for the pre-K additions. The difference went up slightly. I think from the schematic design estimate, maybe $100,000 total. So from our perspective, it's kind of right there. A percent here or there is really a small difference. So, but the big answer is each project is kind of unique on its own, and kind of when you're designing it, different requirements in different buildings kind of drive that. So, hopefully that answered.
Any other comments or questions on 6D? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. All right, now we are moving on to 6E, the approval of design development documents for Elmer Wolf Elementary Pre-K Addition project.
Okay, so 6E through 6J are related to the blueprint requirements for pre-K expansion.
All right.
Yeah, my only comment is, one of the definite things I think I'm hearing a lot about is pre-K rewrite requirements. Or, are they just going to keep moving forward with waivers for this category? But I'm just curious as to, is there a time where we're past the point of no return where we can't turn these off or scale back if blueprint requirements change to save these funds?
So where we are with the pre-K addition project, these 6 are part of phase 1. The total it's one project in the board's capital request and the county's adopted capital budget, capital plan. There are 3 phases within that single project. So these are phase 1. 3 of these 6 schools already have a second pre-K class that's operating a lot of times in a first grade or second grade classroom, not a classroom design. So these 6 are really the priority of where we're going to be adding a second pre-K class due to the demographics and the number of eligible families. Phase 2 and Phase 3 could certainly be, timing of those could change depending upon what happens with blueprint implementation requirements and all of that. So I would say for these 6, we're going to continue to move down the road of designing. Obviously, as information comes in at any point, things change. But for Phase 2 and Phase 3, there's been no dollar spent on those, and it's another 9 schools in Phase 2, 4 in Phase 2, 5 in Phase 3. So those schools, if something changes, could certainly be pushed out or potentially eliminated if the need isn't there. So
I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, of all the blueprint mandates, this is the one most likely that may see some changes in Annapolis. And I'm just hoping that we stay nimble and agile where we can change course and maybe save some capital dollars that we can put into other schools for maintenance and upkeep. But I appreciate the...
It's a big reason we broke it into phases is because of that uncertainty. So,
Mr. King, can you remind me real quick? I was trying to find, and I could not find it, when we had voted to put the pre-Ks in these specific schools?
for these specific schools was when we went out and hired the architect. The architect was told which schools they'd be designing. The facility master plan, the capital plan have the phases. I believe there was, in consultation with the supervisor of elementary ed, Pam Myers, which schools were going to go first. I think we bumped one into phase 2, bumped one back into one up to phase 1, one back to phase 2 because we had kind of already put a class there. But it really, again, there'll be another opportunity in a month to look at the pre-K schedule of projects when the facility master plan comes to the board. So, phase 2 and phase 3 could certainly be reevaluated which schools.
Now, I was trying to remember, I know I voted on it, I just couldn't remember what year it was we actually did it, but I remember it was concentrated areas due to need.
Yeah.
So we knew Elmer Wolf was definitely a place that it had absolute need. Running, Robert Moton was one.
Yeah.
Runnymede. So all the ones that we have here, it's because the space is needed.
Right.
And the need is needed
Right.
for those communities.
And for those 3 schools, it was a no-brainer because they already had their second pre-K teacher. They needed the space kind of, as soon as possible.
All right. Board members, I don't think we've got a first and a second on 6E.
I'll move approval of the design development docs for Elmer Wolf.
Okay. So who was the first and the second on 6E?
We're just starting. I just gave the motion for 6E.
Okay.
Elmer Wolf.
And then who was the second for the motion on that? And second, okay. All right, now, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, and that passes. Now, a motion for 6F, approval of design for documents for Robert Moton.
So moved.
By Mr. Whistler,
And I'll second
and
that.
a second by Dr. Dorsey. Okay, Dr. McCabe, any comments on that? Or questions? All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Passes unanimously. 6F is the approval of the design development documents. We just did Robert Moton. Next is Runnymede. So 6G.
So moved.
I'll second.
All right. Mr. Whistler and Dr. Dorsey. All right. Any comments or questions? All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next will be
Spring Garden.
Spring Garden. Can I have a motion to approve that one? By Dr. Malvo, and a second? Second by Ms. Zimmer. Any comments or questions? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And next one is Westminster Elementary, 6I,
So moved.
moved by Dr. Dorsey,
I'll second.
and a second by Mr. Whistler. Any comments or questions? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the last one is the William Winchester for 6J.
So moved.
Moved by Dr. Dorsey
And I'll second that.
and a second by
I knew
Mr.
she'd
Whistler.
move that one.
That's her hometown school. And any comments or questions? Ms. Zimmer.
I just had a quick comment. I wanted to thank Mr. Prokop and his team for getting me caught up to speed on all of these additions and what the process looks like and how you come up with what you come up with. So thank you for spending a couple hours with myself and Dr. Malvo last week.
All right. So call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Next, we have 6K, the approval of awarded bids. May I have a motion? By Dr. Malvo
Second.
and a second by Mr. Whistler. Dr. McCabe.
There are 10 items on the award of bids this evening. The first 4 items are awards related to the approval projects for the CIP. These are projects related to the pre-K expansion under the Blueprint for Maryland's Future. The first is for construction of the K and pre-K addition at Tawnytown. The second is for the K and pre-K addition at Sandy Mount. The third is for the pre-K and Pride addition at Friendship Valley. And the fourth is the K and pre-K addition at Cranberry Station. Next, emergency chiller replacement at Liberty High. This award is for the replacement of an emergency chiller. It is funded by the board's local infrastructure renewal CIP project account. Next, we have the refurbishment of gym floors at Linton Springs at Mechanicsville. This award is for the summer projects to refurbish those gym floors, and the work is being paid for with funding from the State Aging Schools Program. Next, we have printing of school informational calendars. This contract is for the annual printing of the informational calendars that go home to our families. We print enough so that each family can have a printed calendar with a few additional copies. Next, letters of intent to provide athletic bus transportation for high school sports. We reimburse participating bus contractors separately from our overall transportation reimbursement formula for transporting students to and from athletic events. We are concluding a 5-year agreement with participating bus contractors, and this award would be for the next 5 years. Next, we have security laminate at 8 schools. This is for the installation of security laminate at middle schools. This is one part of our ongoing capital initiatives of our school security program. These actions are vetted through the board's Security Advisory Council and are prioritized based on available funding. And from here, we normally don't talk about where they're going, in particular for obvious security reasons. And then lastly, we have State of Maryland to purchase 2 Chevy Malibu sedans. This is an award to buy 2 staff vehicles used by our PPWs with FY25 year-end money, and they will be replacing 2 aging vehicles. The past few years, we've had issues with the delivery of vehicles. So we're bringing this award tonight because these 2 vehicles are on the lot and guaranteed for delivery with your action tonight. Questions?
Mr. Whistler.
Thank you, Dr. McCabe. Yeah, definitely, the auto thing is good because with all the tariffs going back and forth, we have no idea what future prices will hold. There's a lot of volatility, so I appreciate you doing that. Another chiller. Liberty, we can't get our arms, we can't get away from these chillers, can we? Yeah, the compressor. But no, I appreciate everything. I have no questions, particular things.
Okay, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It passes unanimously. All right, next up is item number 7, discussion. This is 7A, charter school application process. Dr. McCabe.
For discussion this evening, we wanted to focus on the charter school application process. We do have an applicant for a charter school, our first in a long time and only our second application ever. Our focus is not so much on the new application, which was just received and is very early in the review process, but more on the process in general and the legal framework surrounding charter schools in Maryland. As we now have an application, we thought it would be good for the board and the public to have this opportunity to hear more about the legal requirements and the process. We have a presentation that we would like to share and then to respond with board member questions and discussions. First, Mr. O'Neill will provide some general information on the application, and then Mr. O'Mealy will provide a legal overview regarding public charter schools in Maryland. Mr. O'Neill?
Thank you, Dr. McCabe. So, well, let's try that again. There we go. So the first couple of slides after the title slide are just sort of a notification that we have indeed received officially an applicant for a charter school. The Carroll Learning Alliance, which is a nonprofit, has applied to eventually open a charter school. We received that application officially on March 31. And they are proposing to open a Carroll Classical Charter School. So the name of the charter school would be the name of the school. The Carroll Learning Alliance would be the operator or the nonprofit organization that would operate the charter school. And following your board policy, the proposal would be that the school would open for the 26-27 school year. Still very early. I know there's already been some interest among community members, but it's not been too long since we received it, and it goes through a review process. Mr. O'Mealy will talk about the timeline in the law for review and approval. It's a pretty quick timeline, but at this stage, it's still early. It will be reviewed by a committee. Largely the superintendent's cabinet. There's a possibility we could add a content expert or so. And our review process, which is defined in your board policy and especially in the administrative regulations supporting your board policy, CG, contains the evaluation criteria and the scoring rubric and all of that information. So that's already publicly available on our website. That is what we will use as a committee to make the review. Ultimately, we will present our review to Dr. McCabe as superintendent. She will consider our work and anything else she would like to apply, and then she'll bring you a recommendation to the Board of Ed for action for you to take on approving the application for the charter school. So the initial step, not the next step that would follow that, which would be the charter itself that would grow from approval of the application. Mr. O'Mealy will do this in a bit, but the timeline is 120 days. So from the date of March 31, that means by July 29, there has to be the final action before the board. So we will be on a timeline through this process of review to either try to aim for your already scheduled July meeting, and if not, we would have to perhaps look at a special meeting schedule just for this purpose a little bit later in July. So I want to go back to what Dr. McCabe said as she introduced this. These two slides were just an update on the actual application. I want to draw the really bright line here now and say the rest of this presentation as it shifts over to Mr. O'Mealy is generally what does the law in Maryland and other guidance say about charter schools, what they are, what they mean, what the approval process is, et cetera. So this is all just sort of the overview, general information. And I'm going to stand here awkwardly and click while Ed presents.
Mr. O'Mealy, we can't hear you. We're wondering if your microphone is on.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. I know you could hear me. All right, because I'm using my teacher voice, you know. But in the 22 years, they never adopted regulations, but rather reviewed charter school appeals on a case-by-case basis and developed a body of case law. And in that body of case law, the state board has made clear that we review each application on its merits. And we do that in accordance with our local policy and in accordance with state law. All right, and so that's important to know. So let's look at the definition of a charter school. It's a public charter school, and I can't emphasize the word public enough. It is not a private school. A charter school, especially a charter school in Maryland, and each state has different charter school laws, and Maryland is very, very clear. It is a public charter school. It is non-sectarian in all of its programs, policies, and operations. Parents choose to seek enrollment of their children and they attend tuition free. They don't pay to go to any of the public schools in Carroll County. They would not pay to attend a public charter school. It's open to all applicable grade level students on a space available basis. So whether you're in Tawnytown or in Eldersburg or in Mount Airy or in Manchester, no matter where the charter school is located, you have the same right to seek admission of your child in the public charter school, provided that the applicable grade level matches. So, you know, if it's a K through 5 or a K through 6, you would obviously need to be in those grade levels in order to apply. And it's on a space available basis. So what happens in the event that you have more students who are interested in applying than they have seats available? Then you go into a neutral lottery system, subject to some variations, which I'll get into a little bit later. This is subject to federal law. And among the things that we have to be in compliance with is any public charter school in Maryland has to adhere to all federal and state laws dealing with discrimination. And that would include the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972, Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, etc. Cannot discriminate in our programs and in our offerings, whether to students or to employees. We have to be compliant with all applicable health and safety laws. And when I say we, I mean the school system. And if approved, a charter school is one of our schools. It's unique, it's distinct, but it is a public school under the charter operator, but also under the Board of Education of Carroll County. All right, and so we would have an obligation, as with the charter operator, if approved, to make sure that we are compliant with all health and safety laws. All right, subject to all other laws, regulations, and rules as other public schools, unless a waiver is granted, and there is the possibility for local level waivers and state level waivers, which may or may not be granted either in the application process or later on. Charter school is supposed to operate with an innovative educational program somewhat unique from other public schools, and that's something that would be looked at in any review process. Importantly, teachers and other employees employed by the Board of Education. A teacher at a Maryland public charter school is a public school employee, subject to the same collective bargaining agreements, subject to the same pay scales, subject to all the same terms and conditions of employment. In other states, teachers at charter schools very often are employees of the charter operator, not so in Maryland. And that is true for other employees, instructional assistants, custodians, unless perhaps if the custodian covers a rental property, that may be a distinction. But in other respects, the employees, including the principal, would be an employee of the Board of Education of Carroll County. All right, let's go to the next slide. All right, so charter school funding. And that's understandably a major issue of concern. A county board must fund a public charter school an amount of county, state, and federal money that is commensurate with the amount dispersed to other public schools in the system. So the state board has developed a funding formula that we use where we look at roughly 98% of the average per pupil expenditure would go on a per pupil basis to a public charter school. And Blueprint obviously needs to be considered in that as well. So they are funded just like other public schools in the county on a per pupil basis. And so depending upon how many children are enrolled in the charter school, that would have the numerical factor that would be used in the calculation of funding. Public charter schools may also engage in fundraising. Just like our PTAs can engage in fundraising, most charter operators are 501c3 entities and can engage in the kind of fundraising where they accept charitable donations and things like that. They can raise funding for extra things that are not funded through the public school system. All right, so the timeline. As Mr. O'Neill indicated, we have 120 days upon receipt of a charter application to review and make a decision. And during that time frame, there's a lot of work that's done by everybody involved, both from the applicant and from the superintendent and the superintendent's cabinet, and then ultimately the Board of Education. After the superintendent makes a recommendation one way or the other, then the board needs to make a decision in public session. The review is in accordance with our procedures, our policy, and state law. All right, so it's not a question of whether we like charter schools or don't like charter schools. It's not a question of whether this is not the right time or it is the right time. The question is, does it rise or fall on the merits in accordance with our policy, our procedures, and state law? It's a objective process to the extent that it can be. And if the Board of Education ultimately decides not to approve a charter, the charter applicant can appeal to the Maryland State Board, and there have been cases where the Maryland State Board has reversed the local Board of Education and has ordered the local board to approve the charter. So, as I said, the State Board has developed this case-by-case method of reviewing these, and again, each one rises and falls on the merits of the application. All right. So before I get into the next slide on employee rights, let me talk a little bit. Oh, yeah, I skipped one. Waivers. All right. A public charter school shall comply with the provisions of law and regulations governing other public schools unless a waiver is granted. The county board may grant a waiver from a local policy. The state board would be the body to go to seek a waiver from a state policy or a rule. And so, you know, if there is a waiver, for example, from the school calendar, that would be a matter for the local board. If it's a waiver of a COMAR provision with a state curricular standard, that wouldn't be something that the Board of Education of Carroll County could grant. That would have to be something that the Maryland State Board of Education would have to address. A waiver may not be granted regarding the audit requirements, student assessments, just like the student assessments that we have for all of our students, or for the health, safety, or civil rights of a student or an employee of the public charter school. All right, you do not waive your statutory rights by seeking enrollment in a charter school. All right, so we would not ever consider a condition such as students with disabilities need not apply. That would be rejected right away, and for good reason. All right, so before going on to employee rights, I wanted to talk a little bit more, if I could, and I don't have a specific slide on this, but the member of the public asked this question. What is the authority for saying that the finances of the school system is not part of the consideration? And there is authority. And there are several Maryland State Board of Education decisions on this point. And I should say that I've been involved in some of the cases. So one case that I was not involved, Global Garden Public Charter School versus Montgomery County. And in this case, the state board said that the school board's consideration of the overall financial picture was, quote, extremely troublesome as they appear to violate both the spirit and the intent of the charter school law. We came to the conclusion that because charter schools are public schools that are part of the local school system and serve the school system's students, and the school system receives commensurate funding for students enrolled in the schools, you really can't look at the financial picture of the school system as a whole. Another case, Frederick Outdoor Discovery Charter School versus Board of Education of Frederick County. The state board again admonished a local school board on its consideration of the overall financial picture of the school system. And the state board said, in the charter school context, there should be no, quote, us versus them. Specifically, a charter school in Frederick County is a local public school, as much a part of the local school system as a non-charter school. State law requires that local boards fund charter schools with a per-pupil allocation commensurate with non-charter schools. Thus, when a charter school seeks to serve FCPS students, the funding for those students is not lost to the local board. It remains in the local board's budget for use in funding the education of those FCPS students in the charter school, just as the money would remain in the budget to fund the education of students in non-charter FCPS public schools. While we do not espouse that commensurate funding for charter schools is a zero-sum game on either side of the ledger, funding a charter school cannot accurately be considered as a loss of dollars to our schools. That's the Maryland State Board of Education. There's only been one case where the state board looked at that issue a little bit differently, and it was based upon the very unique features in Garrett County, where they had just closed 3 schools, and then a charter group wanted to reopen in one of the schools that was closed. And it was a school that was built in the 1920s. It had asbestos, mercury, lead, and mold. And given the very unique circumstances in Garrett County, where it is the second largest county in the state of Maryland geographically, but with a school population, you could put all the kids in Garrett County in Westminster High School and still have some room left over. And it just didn't make sense under those circumstances. But the state board was very clear that it was a very limited decision. So that's the authority on this issue. And, you know, that's different than what I think we have here. Let's move on to employees, because it's very important, and this is something that I have shared with our friends at CCEA. Employees at a public charter school in Maryland are board employees subject to the same rights of other board employees. The existing collective bargaining agreements apply. Now, a charter school may seek to negotiate mutually agreeable amendments with the board and the applicable unions. So it's kind of like a tripartite negotiation, a multilateral negotiation, to address the unique needs of the charter school. So perhaps for an exception, unique to the charter school from the negotiated agreement. And a typical example of that would be a modified duty day or a modified duty year. So some of our charter schools, and I don't know if that would be applicable to the proposed charter in Carroll County, but I've worked with school systems with charter schools where they have an extended school year. They still have the 180 days that everybody else has for the students, and they still have the same number of duty days for the employees, but it's on a very different calendar structure because part of that charter is essentially a year-round school. That would be just an example of the kind of negotiation that's possible. Now let's move over to student rights, because this is equally important. Students attending a public charter school are entitled to be free from discrimination. They're entitled to the same federal and state rights and protections as other public school students. They're subject to the same laws and regulations concerning due process, suspensions, and searches. So a student does not give up rights by transferring from one of our regular public schools to a public charter school. So let's go on to the next one on the approval decision basis. The decision to approve the application must be based on the laws, as I've indicated, and the criteria in the board policy. The review is of the completeness of the application based on the established criteria. And as I said, it rises and falls on its own merits. Not having a secured facility is not a basis for a denial. And that's what I lost. I had that case for the Board of Education of St. Mary's County about 20 years ago. And they said, well, you know, you got to approve the charter contingent upon the location of the facility. And so that's important. As I indicated, funding the charter school is not a basis for denial. As the state board said, it's not a us versus them. It's one of our schools, if indeed we approve it. If the application is approved, then we get into the negotiation of the charter agreement itself. So it's a two-step process. First, the approval of the application, and then the approval of the charter. A charter school must have a charter. The application is not the charter. It's the application for the approval of the school. All right, let's talk about enrollment. As I indicated earlier, open to all applicable grade level students in the county. If applicants exceed available seats, then we're going to have a lottery. And you might have a lottery for second grade, but not for third grade. It would depend upon how many applicants for the given grade. Example that we did when we did eventually open the charter school in St. Mary's County, we brought in a retired judge who conducted the lottery. We had the names in the capsules put in the tumbler, and the names were pulled out. You know, that is a neutral, unbiased, colorblind admissions process. It is the luck of the draw. Now, there are some exceptions. So, one exception is a small percentage of children of founders, teachers, and staff may be exempt from the lottery. Now, it doesn't define what a small percentage might be, but if we say, yeah, well, we have 100 founders, teachers, and staff for 100 seats, that wouldn't fly. All right, it's a small percentage. The law also says that you can give preference for siblings. Well, that makes abundant sense because, you know, I think one thing that Carroll County can pride itself on is that we are always family friendly. And so it would make absolutely no sense to say, well, the third grader can go, but the second grader can't. You know, we'd want to keep families together. You can also have preferences for, not required, but you can have preferences for students with free and reduced meal eligibility, students falling under IDEA or Section 504, English language learners, or McKinney-Vento. They may be allowed, not required. So that's it in a nutshell. You know, in Maryland, the first school system to have a public charter school was Frederick County, even before the charter school law was enacted. We have charter schools in certainly the larger counties, but also in counties like St. Mary's as well. And I think it's just imperative that we have an objective process in accordance with our policies and in accordance with state law. Any questions?
If anyone has the question, how can you tell O'Neill from O'Mealy? O'Mealy is the one who can use tripartite in a sentence.
But we both have to deal with the discrimination against people with apostrophes in our last names.
Dr. Malvo, did you have a question?
No, I think.
All right. Ms. Zimmer.
Just something that I found interesting from Mr. O'Mealy is that the idea of whether us as board members like charter schools or don't like charter schools, that doesn't really matter when we go to vote on it. Again, just repeating what you said, it's based on the merit of the application, and as long as it is following our policies, state and federal laws, that is what the decision is based off. I just thought that was important to reiterate because that was news to me. Thank you.
Mr. Wessler?
If you could, Mr. O'Neill or Dr. McCabe, can you explain the process? We don't look at the application and decide it all. We're relying on a lot of input and feedback from you, correct? Can you kind of give the public an idea of just what we're going to rely on to make our decision?
Yes, so we have a charter school review process, which consists of my cabinet as well as any other content experts, as Mr. O'Neill had said earlier, where we go through each portion of the application and make sure it meets certain criteria. And each of the cabinet members goes through each portion of the application. And the cabinet will meet and discuss that. And then by the time it gets back to me, it will become an iterative process. So if there are issues with certain portions of the application, then we will meet with the charter school folks and talk about what portions of the application need to be looked at again, and then they would have the ability to go back and revamp, rethink, rework, and then turn it again. And so that process could happen, several times before agreement is reached. Mr. O'Neill?
I think that's a good summary, and as far as the substance, the merit, as Mr. O'Mealy said, there's the policy and regulation which have been referenced tonight, and I think they're fairly easy enough to find. There's also a CCP or a Carroll County Board of Ed charter school application that any applicant would fill out, and it's a little trickier to trace your way to it on the website. It's probably easier to go to the search feature and just type in charter school application, but you'll find it, and it's the format of how they apply. It has the sections and the content of each section, the educational program, and so forth and so on. And in the actual application, it are the evaluation criteria of the section down to the scoring rubric that Dr. McCabe's team will use to make the recommendations. And then I think at the end of that process, that whole process, including the parts Dr. McCabe explained, it will come to you on a public board agenda like anything does for action, with a recommendation from the superintendent, and it would sort of be, I recommend that the application be approved or not perhaps, and that where there might be some sort of places that aren't completely harmonized might, for instance, at least from other experiences in my life, might be, for instance, the waiver requests. Perhaps I'm making this up. This isn't real. Let's say they have 5 local waiver requests. It could be that Dr. McCabe would say, I could sign off on 1, 2, 3, and 4, but I can't be okay with the 5th waiver request. And then that's sort of a decision within a decision for the Board of Ed to come to.
Thanks, I really appreciate it. There's a lot of talk out there. A lot of people think that we make this decision in a vacuum based on our personal beliefs and that's just not the case. There's a really purposeful, rigorous process that we're going to rely on a lot of people on staff to make that decision. So I appreciate you explaining that to the public.
And it's all right there for anyone to read. There won't be any subjective things that any reviewer, whether it's here or, will add to the process. It is that application. Those are the standards.
Dr. Dorsey?
Yes, I think what's quite revealing, and hopefully everyone is grasping it as well, is again, with it being a public charter school, it's not going to be an us versus them, so to speak, but we'll still have our children or our students. It will be our school, and again, the staff members would be ours as well. So again, I think that takes some of the maybe controversy or different ways of looking at it, maybe away by understanding that it would be CCPSs.
Yes, certainly the board is the authorizer. The charter applicant, if approved, is the operator. But there is that collaboration that would have to follow in accordance with the charter. And absolutely, they're Carroll County Public School students, they're Carroll County Public School employees.
Dr. Malvo?
Actually, now I have a question. This is a little bit more specific. The charter school goes under Board of Ed, not under CCPS, I understand. Tell me if I'm wrong on that. But also, this is something maybe public should know. Is there a cost in terms of maintenance, like we have the chillers and the rooftops and the different repairs that are done with the different schools, with the charter school? How does that work?
Not excuse me, not directly, Dr. Malvo, and so that would be a distinction. That's sort of a difference. You're not going to build or buy or renovate the charter school facility. The operator is going to secure the facility, however, build it, lease it, rent it, buy it. That's up to the operator to do, based on either the per pupil allocation that Mr. Emili described earlier, the way in which we would fund them on a per pupil basis, or perhaps through other funds they raise or grants or those sorts of things. That's how that would work. So it's sort of our school in a facility that we don't own. But it's our school, it's our students, it's our employees, and we're going to share that experience. So it's another school like any school in the system, and it falls under the authority of the Board of Education. But it's not your facility.
Ms. Lang?
I actually have two questions. So the first one is kind of like Dr. Malvo's question. So I know you said that any student in Carroll County can go to this charter school. Does that also cover transportation costs like buses?
So it could.
can.
I'm trying to keep this away from this specific applicant. So I will. A charter school makes a choice. Do they want us to transport students to that school like any other school, or do they not wish to do that? And so they have to make that decision as they apply. The largest portion of commensurate funding is part of the mix of transportation funding, is part of the whole mix of commensurate funding.
Okay, thank you. And my second question, I don't know if you know this, but because the charter school is also still a public school for the board and CCPS, would they be involved in CCSGA events as well, or is that a separate entity?
It would be.
If it's middle school.
I would say that it depends, I think, in part upon the grade levels, and I'm not clear on, do we involve elementary schools in CCSGA events? I wouldn't think so. But if, for example, we had a charter high school, then by all means, they would be eligible to participate in all county-wide activities, including but not limited to CCSGA. They could have athletic teams, they could, participate in all-county band and things like that. The difficulty, though, is, and we talk about the funding, it's easier to fund a charter elementary school than it is to fund a charter high school because of what goes into an average per pupil allocation. And so it's more expensive to run a high school with all of the additional things that go into a high school, including laboratories, athletic fields, and whatnot, than it is to run an elementary school. But the funding formula that the State Board of Education devised doesn't take that into consideration. You look at the average per pupil expenditure for the county as a whole, not for the average elementary funding or the average middle school funding or the average high school funding.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Let's see. All right, so next we have our unfinished business and new business. On Thursday, April 24th, 2025 at 1 p.m., we have our joint meeting with the county commissioners in the Reagan Room across the street at the county office building at 225 North Center Street in Westminster. On Wednesday, May 14th at 4 p.m., we will have our board meeting with public participation here in the boardroom at 125 North Core Street in Westminster. And please make sure to take note of a change in date for our July board meeting, which will be on Wednesday, July 16th at 4 p.m. May I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Dr. Dorsey.
Second.
Second by Mr. Whistler. All those in favor? Aye. Have a good one. Thanks, everybody.